the entirety of your life, and every life is housed in an aspect of your created self. All those worlds, universes, dimensions, all those experiences. And yet your vehicle seems so very small to be housing all that information, much like a computer. And yet everything there is contained in every single new nowness moment, and that is the isness. We might consider how we are the culmination of ourselves. We are the experiencer of what we decide. But culmination suggests a progression and motion from a position to where we stand now, and any sense of space and time are features of creation, according to the linear processor of experience that is our created vehicle in cause and effect creation. If everything is, and everything is now, there can be no culmination or progression in fact. It is simply what we decide in any moment. From the personal self, cause and effect perspective, it would seem we have had all these lifetimes, and this would be so, but only from a creational self-viewpoint. From the real view, there has been no passage of anything, and everything is a completeness. If that is so, and everything is complete, then it is what we recognize of that completeness that we become. If everything is, then every expression of being, be it in creation or the various states of is recognition, are available right here in every new moment. So in creation, were we to take away the agreed upon cause and effect, time generating, or seemingly so, mechanics of it, all experiences, past, present, and future, would hit us simultaneously. There would be no time then, and segregation of experience from one lifetime to the next. If what we decide then generates experience, we might say that is the future, but absent of cause and effect time phases, these future events would be bundled in with everything else. Our focus becomes our experience. The releasing of tap lines and deconstructing of the created consciousness self and the ideas it's constructed of will also release the filtering layers that limit our experience. In a way, we are deconstructing our past to afford us experience that will move us along with our process of awareness, coupled with our focus and real intent. So, in essence, there is no culmination. There is no point A to B movement of things. It is simply that which we decide, and the experience and position in life is so. The new nowness is the real awareness, with the new you song as the connection to this true reality the real self stands in. And so, to stand in this new nowness has us outside of creation while still in it, outside of cause and effect. This is the position we need to not be at the mercy of the effects of our created self, the effects that can't be avoided, because if you're locked in creation, how can you avoid your own created self? In this new nowness, however, if it is a sincere intent, then karma, or cause and effect, no longer apply, and from this position we look right into the ease, and must learn to recognize it, if we decide to want to stand real with it and the guides. From this position we are everything. Everything is contained in the isness of this new nowness, including all of our created lifetimes of experience. Perhaps we can say that the personal self is the culmination of its experience. As a culmination, and the passage and journey through lifetimes only applies to the created cause and effect simulators that the personal self is a part of. The real awareness in this new nowness has nothing to do with creation, other than being recognized by utilizing the experiences in the simulators. And suddenly everything there can be, including all the sequential cause and effect lifetimes, are in this new nowness moment with everything else there can be. This is where the universal files are to be found, which is simply accessing the ears and all that it is, including everything that has ever transpired in the simulators. Standing in the ears as the real self, we would see all the lifetimes lived by the personal self, including all the future potentialities, according to the decisions and choices being made. And so, once a decision has been made by the real you, it will nudge the personal self along accordingly, despite its disconnect and thinking that it is its creation. The real you would see the effect experience of Dwayne and the new presentation on Earth in the 21st century, and you would surmise, make adjustments to the individual lifetimes of the personal self. just like how the reptilians can move in and out of time, change the past, and the future alters accordingly, except here on a far greater position of real awareness oversight. The personal self goes about its cause and effect lifetimes oblivious, on automatic pilot, chasing what it does, and manifesting a baseline of overall agreed upon idea experiences, generally of a controlled by the cabal nature. The real you watches on, and at a point decides to recognize itself. If it did not decide this, then the personal self would roll through its experiences unconscious, and hit the end of the road iron epoch. But the real you decides, and begins to manipulate, perhaps dipping into the personal self's timeline to alter this, and then to ensure the personal self has the experiences required to bring it to a point where it seeks to be more and see more, and if all goes well, the personal self finds itself on Earth and approaching the new presentation. For how would the personal self know that alterations had been made? If the personal self had reached the iron epoch and the real you decides to begin the process of self-recognition, as the real self may go back to what would seem to be, from the personal self's perspective, perhaps caveman times, and begin a few adjustments that culminate in the individual getting stuck into its real intent objective after millions of lifetimes, and now in the iron epoch. If you dip into a timeline and alter the created ideas of the individual, you alter the experience, and that is what is filed in the memory body. There is no way a personal self would realize the alteration. Only through their real awareness would they perhaps incite that changes had occur, as the real awareness is beyond creation, and can access and see all. And so, the moment you decide something, in actuality it is already so. So there is nothing to separate a decision from the actualization of it. Only in creation is the experience effect of a decision delayed, as the process of cause and effect must be rolled out to deliver that which is decided, and other individuals' agreements serve as random variables also to what we can manifest on the physical level. But on the real side, everything is already and instantly so, in accordance with what is decided. In the isness, everything is, no decision necessary, except for the decision to recognize deeper levels of the isness, and the decision to do so becomes so. And so, from the perspective of the real you, you decide to recognize yourself. It is already so. It just requires that the sequences of cause and effect experiences that deliver the personal self to that moment are transitioned through. This is why focus is important. You are what you decide, and what you decide is what you focus on. Whatever you focus on, you are already, in isness terms, just not from the personal self-creational view. And so the personal self fluctuates its focus as it vacillates back and forth until it stabilizes and locks in its intent. With the real intent locked in, the focus is steady, and this is the sincerity to supersede the personal self. And so we just have to wait for the personal self to catch up in a sense. It must go through the process to be what it already is. It just must endure the cause and effect sequences of time frames to get to the fruition of what it has firmly decided. There is rather the delay between decision and experience on the physical level, but on the real side it is instant, and whatever a person is deciding at any moment on the physical can be viewed as entire lifetimes and situations already created in accordance. If the focus fluctuates between the personal self and the real intent, then so too will be our position and experience. You decide the percentages, but if the personal self comes first, then the positioning of being with the ears is secondary and can't be so. The idea is to put all of life first, and some may consider, from their personal perspective, how they must place something else before themselves. But this would demonstrate the lack of recognition that you, the real you, is life itself, and the personal created self is not. So when you put life first, you are putting your real you first before the personal self, and by such, the decision to do so is instantly so on the real side, and the dream experiences will reflect the focus, if it is with the personal self or the real self. And ultimately, as we go through the personal self and the experiences required to be where we are deciding now, we can stand with the ears and the real guides as the beings of light we always were.